Today is Friday, April 25th, 2025, and we welcome you to our Chapter 49 podcast. Chapter 49 represents most IRS employees in the state of Indiana. My name is Larry Lannan. I'm a retiree and a volunteer in communications for Chapter 49. So let's welcome back our Chapter 49 president, Duncan Giles.
Thanks, Larry. It's always good to be here.
So, as you would expect, we have a whole long list of things to get to. So let's get to them right away. We're going to talk about a number of issues, including how you may want to find another way to access this podcast in the next few episodes that we do have left, and in case Duncan loses access to some of his email networks that he uses internally at IRS to spread the word. But we'll start off with reduction in force. Rumors continue, and we do have some information, but really not a lot. There seems to be a delay if there is going to be a reduction in force. We're not really sure when or what information is out there about it. So I'm sure you get questions on this all the time, Duncan. So what do we know and not know about impending reductions in force at the Internal Revenue Service?
Yeah, this is one of those where rumors are flying and nobody knows anything for sure because there's not a lot of stuff out there for sure. One of the things that came around this week was somebody posted on Reddit that they were going to be putting a pause on IRS rifts for 1 or 2 years, which was absolutely positively untrue. I'm expecting some rifts, to be honest with you, today of non-bargaining unit folks, and that continues. So the rifts are continuing here at the IRS as well as the rest of the federal government. And so, you hear rumors all the time. If you see it on Reddit, unless it's coming from a very reputable source that take it with a grain of salt. There are stories and stuff going on around all the time. And I spend a lot of time trying to knock down rumors myself. So if there's information out there, trust me, Doreen Greenwald and her national office staff will get that out pronto. I'll be spreading the word. Other chapters will be spreading the word. So we'll get word out if there is anything. We do know that they are coming. People are saying, well, they've had so many people take the DRP and Verivis up, things of that nature, that they won't need to RIF. Well, I'm here to tell you they're going to continue to do that. They want a much leaner IRS, which I think is, obviously a mistake, but that's their plan. So, don't lull yourself into a false sense of security. But who's going to be RIFed, when it's going to be happening, things of that nature, we just don't know. And right now, nobody has that information outside maybe the very top level of the IRS and Treasury. So if somebody says, oh, yeah, I know what's happening, don't believe the hype.
Well, and be aware that on social media, Reddit being one of those, people can impersonate other people. So even if it looks like it's a reputable source, it may not be. So just take everything there with a grain of salt. You have Duncan Giles, you have Doreen Greenwald, you have lots of other chapter people at NTEU. They're going to give you solid information here in this podcast for as long as we have it. We will do the same here. Also on our Facebook page, we will continue to give you information we know. And if it's a rumor, we'll let you know that. If it's being discussed, we'll let you know it's out there and we'll let you know whether or not it's solid. So when it comes to reduction in force, we know it's coming. We don't know the extent of it. We don't know who will and will not be impacted by it. And if anybody says they know, they really probably do not know. So Duncan gave you a very good summation on that. And just rely on reputable sources for something as important as this, which has such a great impact on yourself, your family, and your future employment. The DRP, part of that alphabet soup I always love to talk about. The DRP is this delayed system where you can be paid through the end of September, even if you're not working, being put on an administrative leave. Well, when you do that, you're supposed to sign an agreement. So, Duncan, are people actually getting agreements to sign?
Yeah, some are not. That's part of the problem. I've gotten a lot of people are saying, I haven't gotten my agreement yet. What can I do? Well, from what little I'm hearing about this, basically they were so deluged with DRP applicants that it's taken time to get the agreements out. So if you've put in and got something back that they received your interest, you're still in the pipeline for that. If you have any questions, by all means, do a ticket. I don't know whether we'll get answered or not, but that's some way to let them know that you are still interested in participating in this program and that you did put you did put your request in timely. And that's the big thing is people are like, well, I wanted to do it, but I decided not to, and now I've decided I want to. Well, the deadline's already passed. People ask me all the time, will there be a third DRP? I have no idea. If I can predict stuff, I would predict the lottery numbers. Um, so my wife Kim could retire. Uh, but we just don't know. I would not count on it. Those type of things. Um, so it's out there. It's coming. Um, and just be aware that it will come to you. If you signed up for it, you will get it, but it could take a while. And again, this is not something that was negotiated by NTEU or has the approval of NTU or anything else. I understand why people take it. Did it myself, so I understand it. But there are certain things that you're waiving when doing this, and part of that is, well, people come to me, well, can't NTU do something about this? No, this is not an NTU negotiated issue, and if you look into the agreements, it will say that you can't file anything through NTEU. So basically, it's a waiting game for this. If you got the initial confirmation that they received your application, you're in the first part of the process. We hope that folks don't end up like so many revenue agents in LB&I and exempt organizations did, where their DRP was basically denied and said they were, critical to the mission, which is okay unless they turn around later on and try and rip these people. And that would be extremely unfair, and I hope doesn't happen. But the DRP is still there. It's still moving. Um, so folks who are gone ahead and gone out on DRP one, I've heard from some of them, they are getting their regular paycheck. So it's still working as it should be. And I know there was a lot of fear around this at the beginning and still is, and understandably so. But, the main point is if you haven't gotten your agreement yet and you're waiting for it, if you've gotten the initial confirmation that you submitted it and they received it, it will be coming hopefully soon.
And one other issue tied to this DRP, where you get put on administrative leave through September 30th. Um, we're hearing different stories about when people can start their administrative leave. Talk about that.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it has an initial date and it said, but it could be up until this date. And folks are, saying, well, I should be able to start it now. And my manager is saying, no, they want to hold me for 2 weeks. They absolutely can. This is something where management has all the rights. And if they're saying they need to hold you to a longer period because of this situation, they legally can do so. You can ask to be released earlier, but it's within their rights to say, no, I understand it says something like, okay, we're going to release you earliest April 28th, but we can hold you until May 16th, and we're going to hold you to that May 16th date. Or if you're CSR, it says for DRP2 says June the 30th. And people are going, well, why can't I go before June the 30th? Well, this is what they've set up to do. Again, you can ask to go earlier, but it seems like what we're seeing, and this is anecdotal from what I've seen, is that they are looking at those later dates to hold people as long as possible. And some folks are saying, well, I don't want to do this because it's only going to give me X amount of time on admin leave instead of, I thought I was going to get another extra month or something of that nature. Unfortunately, this whole thing is a gamble, and that's what it started as. That's what it continues to be. And again, as I just said, management has all the cards on the table, so they are entitled to do this.
Moving to another issue, again, people have had their dues withholding stopped. A lot of questions on that. So, we know the management has done this, and DRP, this dues withholding, lots of other issues. We're in court right now challenging the management and the entire Treasury Department, White House, that whole group in what they're doing. We think they're breaking the law, and we're waiting for a judge to intervene. And we've had at least one hearing from a judge that was very sympathetic. We just don't have a ruling yet. We're waiting as we record this at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the 25th of April. We still do not have an answer and waiting for that. But dues withholding is part of this issue. As we've talked about in the previous podcast, some people even had their dues withholding returned to them. So, Duncan, we have a lot of questions and not a lot of answers on dues withholding. It's all part of this litigation going on. Tell us what we do know about that.
Yeah, this case, this is one of many on several different fronts that NTU and other agencies that are unions that represent other agency employees are doing. And ours in particular, we briefed a decision on Friday. Excuse me, we briefed it yesterday, day before yesterday, Wednesday. What day is it, Duncan? I'm not sure. Um, we briefed it on Wednesday, and as you said, the judge seemed to be very sympathetic. We have the facts and the law in our case, and we were asking for things like, okay, we want the dues withholding to be restarted, and we want, folks are asking, will I have to repay these dues that I'm missing now? And we're asking that the federal government be held responsible and be made to pay these dues. If it comes to a point where the judge rules some for us, some not for us, or something of that nature, and we have to, we can no longer do dues as a payroll deduction, which we hope we still will be able to do. But if we can't, there are plans in place. They will be rolled out right after a legal decision on that. NTU National Office has been anticipating this, one of those hope for the best, plan for the worst type of situations for quite a while. So we have plans in place so you'd be able to pay these dues electronically. And, how the mechanism is going to work exactly, I don't know. Haven't been privy to those discussions because I don't need to. But trust me, I've talked to the people in national office who are dealing with this, and they are ready in case this eventuality happens. So just remember, you are still members, as Doreen said. Whether you have dues coming out, whether you don't have dues coming out, you're all still members. You don't need to worry about that, and we'll continue to move forward. If you say, "Well, I want to help in some way while my dues aren't coming out," if you go to the ntu.org website, there are several ways to show you how you could help with that.
Yeah, and it's really important, and I think it's a great point you made. NTEU was not going to take back dues from you. Well, we're not going to charge you for back dues. We're either going to um, make the agency responsible for that or figure something else out. We're not going to charge you for back dues. We're not going to do that. I want to really make that clear that we as a union will never do something like that. It's not something we did or you did as an employee. It's something that the White House and the Treasury did. And we think it's illegal. We're challenging it. So we're never going to penalize you, the members, because of that. You are still a member. We are still an active union. Even though those dues aren't coming out now, we're fighting that and lots of other things. We're fighting the fact that we were cut out of the DRP and everything else that's going on. We've been cut out of the RIF, which is part of our contract, and that has not been adhered to, which brings me to the next issue. If you are getting Doreen Greenwald's very good updates on email. She's keeping everybody up to date on what's happening. We've also placed this on our Facebook page for people who maybe are not subscribed or have trouble getting it, or just another way to get it to make it available to you quickly. But NTEU, whether those dues are coming out now or not, we are in there in your corner working to enforce our contract. As Duncan said, we've got a very important court case where a ruling could come down at any moment on what's happening here. And I think we actually have more than one court, but there's one that's imminent as far as what a judge has decided to do, and that judge could issue an order at any time. So we are in the courts. We're in your corner. We want to represent you, and when we are denied that right, we are in court and using every other legal lever that we have to take care of that for you. And we are looking out for your interests. That's the bottom line on all this. So, Duncan, even if your dues aren't coming out, at least for the next few weeks, we have this podcast, we have our Facebook page, and of course, if you're a member, all you have to do, if you're not already getting it, is to sign up at ntu.org for those email updates. You'll get them on a regular basis, and they've been very good. And we just had one recently, I think yesterday, about the fact that alternative work schedules are being taken away, and we're adding that to the legal action that we have in progress against the agency on that. So I'd like to hear more from you on this.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they keep stripping and we keep fighting, and people are like, well, why can't NTU just make them stop? Why can't we just, ignore what they're saying and continue our 410s? There is a legal process that has to be gone through, whether it's a national grievance, whether it's going before the Merit System Protection Board, whether it's going to the courts. Each of those, may be a different way to handle things. And our attorneys, who are very, very good, our field attorneys and our legal department, our litigation department in DC is very good, know what they're doing, have been prepping for this, and are taking the necessary steps. Is it as quick as everyone would like? Absolutely not. But that's understood. It's going to be slower. We hate that. We hate the fact that, some people are driving 100 plus miles to their offices and back each day, um, because they, were thinking they were going to be able to telework or were on remote work and now are not able to. And we hate that. And we're pressing as hard as we can to get those things reversed. But when you're in the legal process, as if any of you are familiar with this, if the other side wants to drag their feet and wants to keep, doing things as long as possible, appealing as much as possible, things of that nature, it's going to take quite a long time. And that's unfortunately the situation we're in. So we're continually fighting, but it's not going to be a quick or easy fight. And it's one of those things that we just all have to hang in there and keep moving forward and keep doing what we can so we can revert back to what was legally agreed to in our contracts and things of that nature and federal statutes.
Let's move on to something else. I want to talk a little more about this podcast. What Duncan does each time we post a podcast is send out an email in the internal email system that IRS has, so that at least if you can't access it through the IRS system, you can forward it to another email address that's personal, and you can watch or listen to this podcast. But it's an awareness that it's out there, and it's through the IRS internal system. Excuse me. So that's how he has been spreading the word. We spread it other ways. We also do this through our Facebook page. We always put links up both to the video and audio versions of this podcast. Well, if you are wanting to access our podcast and do not have access, or if you lose access to the IRS internal system for email, I want to explain to you how to find our podcast. Just if you're looking for it just from scratch. On YouTube, there are many people named Duncan Giles on YouTube. So you can't just look for Duncan Giles. So if you want to go to YouTube and find it, and you can just Google this, Google this as well, and it's all jumbled together at Duncan Giles 2845. That's at Duncan Giles 2845. If you go on that, you'll find all of our podcasts at that address on YouTube on the video version in recent years. Now, if you're looking for the audio version of the podcast, again, you can just Google this. Just Google podcasts by Larry Lannan. That's Lannan. If you Google podcast by Larry Lannan, you'll see that I'm on a number of different platforms. I store it on SoundCloud. That's where it gets there quickly, but I'm on Spotify and iTunes and a whole long list of platforms where you can find my audio podcasts. I produce a lot of podcasts, Chapter 49 podcast, just one of them, but you can find them all there. So if you're looking for the audio, just go you just go to Google and just type in podcast by Larry Lannan, and all the different ways to get my podcast will come up for you. So on YouTube, it's at Duncan Giles 2845. Audio, search podcast by Larry Lannan. Those are ways you can find this podcast, and we'll continue to produce this. We tentatively have our final podcast date for May the 8th. So that's how we have set it up now. And Duncan, we have to be honest. How should I put this? The White House, the Treasury, and it's filtered down to IRS. They're being very aggressive in trying to come after NTEU. You currently have a union office. That's where you are now as we record this podcast. There are very strong rumors that, at least until we can get this changed in the courts, that the IRS is going to be very aggressive about taking away your union time and also your office. So we don't know how much longer we can record it this way.
That's exactly true. We may have to, as you said, we've got three, including this one, three podcasts left. So we are doing what we can. If they do this, as you said, it's a very strong possibility that could happen as soon as today. We're still going to be putting them for the next couple of weeks on that NTU 49 Indiana Facebook page and the sites that you mentioned. So we'll have information out there. But it's an interesting time, folks. It really is. It's like nothing I've ever seen in all my time, and it's going to continue to be interesting, I'm thinking.
Well, we'll keep you updated on what's happening on that freight as well, because our Facebook page, which you can find just by going into Facebook and searching NTEU Chapter 49 Indiana, that is independent from the service. I run that myself as a volunteer. So you'll get unbiased and up-to-date information there if you're on Facebook. We found that to be the quickest way and the best way to get information out to people. Last issue we're going to talk about is office closures. And we've talked about this in the last week and recently on several podcasts. The rumors are out there about offices that are on a list to be closed. We even went through a situation where government buildings were supposed to be sold. I think that's all kind of been backed off at the moment. I don't think anybody was truly serious about that, but you never know. So in terms of just office closures, where IRS currently have existing posts of duty, I assume there's no reliable information on that. Do we even know when we'll have information on that?
No, we do not. And, I've heard one of the favorites I've heard is our call site. Well, the call site's going to be closing and we're all going to be fired. I don't know who came up with that figment of imagination, but I haven't heard zip on that. They still need everybody to take care of, the phone calls that are coming in from taxpayers. At our posts of duties across the country, yeah, they put a lot of them. They want to cancel the lease, or if we're in a building, they want to sell the federal building, things of that nature. And again, as we've said before, putting a building up for sale and actually selling a federal building, two totally different things. And, take, for example, the federal building here in Indianapolis that I know is still being talked about as being on the list. Well, it's on the historical list, so you're going to have a tough time changing it. But the maintenance on this, for anybody that would want to buy it as is, would be absolutely tremendous. And I'm imagining the repairs that would need to be going in would be millions as well. So I'm telling you this, so don't hear, there's nothing imminent happening. There's nothing solid that we've had. Part of this is also when you do a project, that's what they call these for IRS or any government agencies. They have to have the money to do the project. And right now, a lot of these funds are frozen. I give you as an example where they took travel cards down to $1 for almost everyone. So there's not a lot of money for projects to be able to do this, because even if you're doing a simple move from one POD to another and you don't have to literally do much of anything else, that's still going to cost, into six figures possibly. And they just don't have those extra funds right now. So again, nothing is happening imminently. We haven't heard of anything. I'm sure national office has heard rumors as well, but we're not seeing anything solid at this point. So just everybody relax for a moment on this one. We've got enough to worry about. We don't need to worry about that one.
I'm glad we can relax about something. That's
Yeah.
some good news. Well, Duncan, it's time for our final comment. Let's have your final comment for this podcast.
Yeah, this is yeah, this could be a bittersweet one for me because I'm hearing that they are looking at taking away union time, union space, many different things, and that could be happening very shortly. Now, NTU is going to be fighting it. We are hoping to have a decision in that case I mentioned earlier in the court on Wednesday, any moment. Perhaps that can forestall it, but they could be saying, okay, well, you're not going to be able to perform, and this is for my brethren across the country, you're not going to be able to perform union duties anymore because IRS has been, chosen as one of those agencies that's national security. We haven't been for, 75 years, 80 years, but okay, or more than that. Um, but it is, this is something I want to reiterate through our last couple of podcasts and my last bit of time here is that, the folks I've worked with through the years, members, employees, a lot of good management folks, and especially the stewards and officers that I've worked with over the last 23 plus years in Chapter 49 have been absolutely amazing. And it's truly been my honor to do things like that because folks are just great and have been willing to step up and help or, say, hey, I need help and can you do this? And that gives us a great deal of satisfaction when somebody is being wronged and we can do something in a situation to correct the wrong and make it right. So if this is the last time or last date or, soon to be when we're able to do union duties for a while until the courts step in, I just want everybody to know that I am grateful for having this opportunity to have done this, and I thank everyone for it.
Well, we'll have a lot more to say about that in the future, but I do want to remind everybody there's one phrase I heard all the time as both a union official and as a manager, and that was this phrase: promote the efficiency of the service. I think you, myself, and every union official I've ever known, and certainly there are a lot of managers too, who care about promoting the efficiency of the service. And protecting employee rights is part of that. But you and I have served on teams, and served on them both as a manager and as a union official, that I think successfully promoted the efficiency of this agency. And the idea that there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse, well, I mean, that's true in any large organization. You work to weed that out. And I think you and I, when we see it, we try to do that. We've tried very hard to promote the efficiency of the service. But my final comment is I want to talk about one individual person. That man's name is Brian Levine. Now, why am I talking about Brian Levine? It shows that sometimes just one person can find a way to make a difference. A lot of organizations are out there doing this, but he's the first person I have seen who took it upon himself to do this. He's a former federal prosecutor. He now, just days before we recorded this podcast, put up a website, and the website is formergov.com. Formergov.com. And this website is a way for employers to find former federal government workers with expertise in specific areas, and is where employees who separated, however they have, with the federal government to look for jobs where they would use their expertise to help an employer, be it in local or state government or in the private sector. So I really have to hand it at this, federal employees, we've always found ways to stick together. NTEU is, and the other federal unions are ways of doing that. We obviously doing everything we can to help people with the service. But once you leave the service, as Duncan said, we've lost our legal ability to help you. But Brian Levine has decided to take it upon himself to establish formergov.com. And it's a way to get yourself back into the workforce. So Yeah, it's federal government workers and former federal government workers helping each other out. To me, that's a bit of good news in a sea of bad news for people working for the federal government. Duncan, Giles, thank you. It's kind of sad to think we only have a couple of more podcasts left, but because I look forward to these every week, and it's going to be sad to see them go away. Although you and I have talked about doing something in civilian life. We'll talk about that later. We don't know if that'll ever happen, but this Chapter 49 podcast has been a joy, and we'll continue for a couple more times to try and provide what information we can in an understandable fashion to people being impacted by everything swirling around them. And that's been our goal from the very beginning, 5 years ago when we started this podcast. So at least for today, thanks for watching and listening. Please be safe and be kind.